Hi everyone! My name is Peli Renata and welcome to my channel. In today's project I have used some very old craft supplies that I have gathered over the years, and I hope to inspire you to do the same. So stay with me and let's get crafty! The idea for this project came from these old scrapbooking papers. They are all from AB Studio, but I will mostly use the elements from this one, this clock, gears and feathers, which I will fussy cut off camera, so I don't bore you. Here you can see all the elements that I have prepared, and at this point I was still a little bit thinking on which size of paper do I want to make this page. But as you will notice very soon, I opted for the bigger one. And I will start by applying this DecoArt sand texture paste through this beautiful AB Studio Stencil. I am not sure are these products still available on the market, but I will still leave some names or links for the products that I do manage to find. Anyway, these videos that I create are supposed to be educative or to serve as inspiration, and you can use whatever stencils, stamps you have in your stash. Because I am sure some of you, like me, have some beautiful products just collecting dust while we are being distracted by brand new goodies. But still, it feels good sometimes from time to time to indulge a little bit of crafty shopping. Anyway, back to my project. After the texture paste was dry, I will start coloring my background using my watercolors. In this watercolor palette that you see in front of me, I have watercolors from various manufacturers. I was just picking some colors that I like and assembled my own palette. Of course, as you can see, I have sprayed some clear water on my paper so that my watercolors would flow more freely. But that will also help in blending various shades that I will apply bit by bit. Now, this process will last a bit because I started applying the brightest shades and then bit by bit I was adding darker shades until I achieved the result that I imagined. This time I decided not to cut out this part and show you how I play with my watercolors for creating backgrounds. But of course you can skip this part, I will leave the timestamp. Also, another recommendation, if you don't feel comfortable with watercolors, I think this would have worked really great with some sprays. In this case, I would have probably opted for either Lindy Stamp Gang sprays or perhaps even Ranger Distress Oxide sprays. Another product that comes to my mind that would have worked really great for this project are Paper Artsy Infusion. They have this walnut stain next to their color, so whatever color you choose, you will still get a little bit of that vintage tones and vintage vibe. Probably here you can notice that I already alter between, I think, 3 shades of brown, going from brighter, always going from brighter to darker ones, because sometimes when you work with darker, it's harder to leave them. I mean, it can work with watercolors, but I think it's still easier to add it bit by bit gradually, and then you have better control. Anyway, I will stop blabbering for a bit and I will leave you to watch my background coloring process for a couple of minutes. If that is not something that you enjoy, I will leave a timestamp on my video so you can skip to the next part. Okay, finally my watercolor process was done. The background was dry and I will move on to the next stage, adding some more details. For that I will use this beautiful mini stencil once again from AB Studio, and using a finger dabber I will apply a little bit of black color using VersaFine Onyx black ink. In retrospective I might have overdone my stenciling. I think it would have looked better if I added a bit less. You know how they say sometimes less is more. I guess I got carried away, but it's fine at the end. It's important that you enjoy the process, as I always tend to say. Here you can notice how I overdid my stenciling, but never mind. Now I moved on to some stamping, again using AB Studio Stamp with some numbers. To be honest, I wasn't too concerned about overdoing the stenciling, as I knew I will cover a big part of it with my focal images. Otherwise, I would have probably started thinking of some techniques and strategies to cover this up a bit. Okay, so now was the time to build my layout. I already kinda planned it on the right side paper, as you might have noticed. So I already had a general idea of how I want to go about this. Now I am just trying to transfer that to the bigger paper. For adhering some elements I will use foam tape, while for others double-sided sticking tape. Some of you who follow my channel probably know that I don't tend to go for too much dimension. And when I do add some, it's usually very discreet, like in this case I am using a very thin foam tape just in order to easier build some layers. So you can ignore this part and you build your layers as you feel like it. You can add much more dimension if that is your thing. Just always try to visualize what elements you want to adhere on the lower levels and what on the upper levels to make your job easier later on. Here the bulk of my layout was adhered, and I thought to add some framing to my page. This is another optional step and depends on your personal preferences. In the earlier days of my crafting, I almost always added some kind of framing to my pages. Now I do it too, but from time to time I skip this step. And now comes the time for adding details. One of those details will be adding these brads for more interest and texture. These particular brads I got from a local hobby store called Ringbound. They have their own line of products, but I'm sure some other manufacturers have something like this. Anyway, these little brads look like little screws, and I think they really fit these gears on my page. Now another little thing from my stash. are these little, like a very thin chipboard doilies, I think is the English word for it. I had these in my stash for probably 10 years. I used to use them a lot in my earliest projects, and I bought a bunch of packages of them because I think they are really cute. Anyway, here I'm trying to find some tiny spots to tuck them in because they are just so pretty. But I also like that I add a little bit of contrast to my really dark background. Anyways, of course I don't know where you could get these doilies, but there are a lot of die cutting manufacturers that have metal dies for cutting out doilies. If you like little things like this, like me. Okay, so now time for the sentiment. I will use the same AB Studio stamp that I used for adding background interest, and I will heat emboss my sentiment on a piece of black cardstock. This what you see me doing here is adding a little bit of baby powder, as I decided to heat emboss with white embossing powder, and this way it will all look really much neater. The baby powder helps to prevent those stray speckles of embossing powder to stick where you don't want them to be. Anyway, here is my quote. I will adhere them using a foam tape. Very thin foam tape. Here I felt like it wasn't perfectly straight and it was bothering me a bit, but oh well, it is as it is now. Now another thing that I tend to do for my art journal pages is add some splatters. I know I already had some with watercolors, but these white I felt needed for the contrast with my really dark background. For adding splatters I am using Winsor & Newton white writing ink. Of course a really good substitute would be a white gesso or white acrylic paint. And just a bit of black splatters because I can be silly that way and just can't resist. Now for the last step I decided to use this Tim Holtz Filmstrip ribbon. I always liked it but never quite found a project where I could use it, so I thought it was finally time to use it here. Anyway, I will cut it in smaller pieces and tuck it in couple of places. This can be known in crafting as a cluster making, as I am putting a lot of elements together, grouping them, and all of these little elements together make a focal point for my page. Now here I am tucking in the last piece, and this is when I had to quit for this page. Sometimes I can really go on and on with adding details and it can be hard to stop. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and that I have inspired you to take a dive in your stash box and take some old fun goodies for play. Thank you all so much for being with me today, and I hope to see you soon with my next video. Have a great crafty day. Bye!